Hey folks, welcome to another Revisited review with yours truly, Sam Healey, right here on the Dice Tower. Today we're going to be taking another look at Sheriff of Nottingham. This is the original version from Arcane Wonders in the Dice Tower Essentials line. There has been a second edition put out by Simon, and there is also now a Disney Robin Hood version also put out by Simon and Spin Master Games. We'll talk briefly about both of those other editions. I'm going to stick to what I know the best, however, and that is the OG version from 2014. But we're going to take another look at it. Now, Tom is the one that did all of the reviews for this back in the day on the Dice Tower, so it's kind of a revisited review. I wasn't the original reviewer, but here's the thing. I've always really talked about how much I enjoy this game, and there's a lot of video proof about how we've enjoyed this game at the Dice Tower over the past few years. So this is still a revisited review because this is a game that I've had in my collection for quite some time. So let's get down to the table and take a look. So basically, the general idea of the game is that you are shopkeepers that are going to be setting up your shops in the marketplace in Nottingham. But the sheriff is going to be inspecting your goods to make sure that you're not trying to sneak in any of these contraband items into the marketplace. Now, with that having been said, one person every round will take on the role of the sheriff, and it's their job to either inspect the goods that are smuggled into Nottingham or trying to be taken into Nottingham, or you're going to simply give that marketer a pass, and you're not going to open up their cart, so to speak, and inspect their goods. You're just going to let them go ahead on in. Now, it is a set collection game because when you are going to be, at the end of the game, you're going to be getting points based on how many of each set you have, plus each of the cards in those sets are going to give you points as well. So the person who has the most apples is going to get an extra 20 points at the end of the game. Second most is going to get 10 extra points, and so forth and so on. Same thing for bread, different amounts down here, chicken and cheese, however. So you get the idea. It's kind of a set collection game, but it is much more of a kind of a bluffing game because the idea of trying to sneak goods past the sheriff is really where you're trying to bluff. Now, it is a game where lying is encouraged. However, you can do quite well by not lying at all because there are penalties for if you are telling the truth as to what is in your cart and you get checked, the sheriff who checks you will pay damages, so to speak. If you were lying, however, the person who was trying to smuggle the goods in is going to be paying the damages to the sheriff, and so forth and so on. So the basic things that you're trying to sneak in, as we already talked about, are apples, chicken, cheese, and bread. There are also contraband items that are these red cards that are in the deck. So you'll have contraband items that are equal to or the same as these other good items, but they will count as 2, they will count as 3, count as 2, count as 2. So you get the idea. Contraband items are worth more, which is why you have to kind of try to sneak them in compared to the regular goods. But that's not the only contraband items, and these are not all-inclusive of either. This is just examples. You also have things like crossbows and silk and mead that you're also trying to sneak in. If the sheriff catches you, then you'll have to pay a fine. But in your sets, I was telling you earlier, this is the amount of points that these things are going to be giving you at the end of the game, with those other bonuses coming into effect as well. So contraband items are not counted and are not visible until the end of the game. So that's a good bit of points that you can get as you go through. On a turn, as I said earlier, one person is going to take on the role of the sheriff, and they will not be trying to get goods into Nottingham at all. Everybody else is going to have a hand of 5 cards. From those 5 cards, you can pick 4 cards at most. You can never send in 5 cards. And you can basically say 2 things. You have to give a number and a kind of good that you're sneaking in. So in this particular hand, if I have the mead and this contraband rye bread here, I may want to go with these 2 chickens, and maybe I want to sneak in that royal rooster, which counts as 2 chickens later on. Maybe I want to sneak, maybe these are the cards that I want to take to market today. So what I'll do is I'll put the rest of my hand down, and let's say I'm playing black over here. I'll take these 3 cards, and I will say that there are 3, because you have to always tell the truth about how many cards are in your pouch, basically. I am going to say that there are 3 chickens in here, all right? And I'm going to snap that shut, and it's going to be all tidy. I'll lay that in front of the sheriff, and after everybody has done that, the sheriff will go one by one for each of these pouches and either inspect them, which means that they don't trust the person who is trying to take goods into the market, or they will just give the pouch back, and that person is free to go. They'll take their stuff. So what we usually do is, if this sound ever happens, if that sound ever happens, there's no going back. The sheriff is going to inspect if that sound happens. And if they pull it out, and they see that, like I said, 3 chickens, and he inspects me. I have 2 chickens, but then I have a contraband chicken. He caught me. So he will confiscate this. I will have to pay that amount in fines to the sheriff, and then I'll be able to take the 2 chickens that I wasn't lying about, and that will go into my marketplace to be sold at market. Now, if, for example, I just said 2 chickens, and he said, you know, I don't think I trust you. I'm going to check and inspect your goods. And I wasn't lying. Then the sheriff has to pay me those damages for, not trusting my character, whatever it might be. So that's what will happen each round. Now, the sheriff in the regular game, anywhere from 3 to 5 players, will switch from one person to the next every round. So you'll basically play the game until everybody's had 2 chances to be the sheriff. And then at the end of that round, when everybody has had 2 chances to be the sheriff, you'll count points. You'll count points for all of your basic goods that are going to be giving you points in your set collection tableau. You'll also get points for having the most or second most of each of those different kinds of things. You'll also get points for the contraband items, and then whoever has the most points is the winner. That's basically how the game plays. Merry Men expansion does bring in a number of different ways to change the game up. For example, it also adds the ability to play with a 6th player. And if you play with a 6th player, you use the deputy deck. Now, the deputy deck is just 1 card of each of the different players in the game. And at the beginning of every round, you're going to flip over 2 of these cards, and that's going to determine who the 2 deputies are. The deputies basically act like the sheriff, but they work as a committee. Now, there's a number of different ways that it can work out. They can both decide to give somebody a free pass and let them go in. They can both decide that the goods need to be inspected. And if that's the case and they do catch some contraband, then they get to split the fine that is paid by the marketer. But if they try to inspect goods that are not contraband, then they both have to split the fees that are paid to the player. You also have these black market modular expansion, and the black market cards are basically, once you have collected 3 of this kind of contraband in your contraband goods, after you have successfully smuggled it into Nottingham, you can turn those 3 cards in to take one of these black market cards, which, as you can see, gives you a whopping number of points at the end of the game. And there are 2 meads, 2 peppers, and 2 silks in here. It also adds a law deck, which are basically rules that will govern each game dependent upon which rules are, or rather which laws are put into effect. At the beginning of the game, the first sheriff will draw 3 of these, and he will pick 2 of them, and they will start. Those are 2 extra rules during the course of the game. Things like no time to inspect. The sheriff must let at least 1 merchant pass each round, or 2 merchants if playing with 5 or more players. So that's, the sheriff can't check everyone, that kind of thing. So those are the kinds of rules that are found in the law deck. It also comes with the namesake, the Merry Men, and the Merry Men are basically, this deck is shuffled, and each player is given 2 at the beginning of the game, and they must discard 1 and keep 1. You can only ever have 1 Merry Men in your hand at a time, and basically what you're trying to do is, these are people that you're trying to smuggle into Nottingham, and if you do so, you'll immediately get the gold at the top of the card, but you'll also be able to immediately fire off an instant that happens. But if you get caught, they are pretty expensive as far as the fines are concerned for paying for these things. Once you get one of these guys in, you can draw 2 more and choose 1 and keep the other, and then you'll also be able to do some special things with contraband cards. So the Merry Men is another cool thing. This is just a placeholder for the deck. Then you also have kind of a public goals module called the Special Orders. So basically, if you are able to smuggle into Nottingham this combination, and there will be 4 of these laid out on the table at a time, and you'll be able to, at the end of a round, claim one of these if you were able to get that combination in there, and it scores you some extra points at the end of the game as well. So that's what all of the different modular expansions do. Now, I've played this in, I think, every single player count that you can possibly imagine, from 3 all the way to 6. The most recent play of the game was a 6 one where we did use both of the deputies. That was the only module we used, however, because I was teaching it to some new people. And it was a good time at all player counts. I will say, though, the more the merrier, if I may use that word as a pseudo pun. But this is a game that works very well. So let's get to my final thoughts. So first of all, for my final thoughts, I wanted to give my brief thoughts about the 2 versions that are available for the game right now. First of all, the Disney Robin Hood edition that is available from CMON and Spin Master Games. Well, first of all, I didn't like the drawstrings. The drawstring pouches that come in that version. I think the snapback is really important. It adds a almost like, and I really don't want to say this, but it's almost like an ASMR kind of aspect to it, where that click is really kind of a, all right, I failed at talking my way past the sheriff, and now I'm going to get caught. It's just that little click can be such a satisfying thing as the sheriff, and a terrifying thing as a player. So I didn't like the drawstrings that I've seen in pictures, at least, from the Disney Robin Hood edition. I know it's Disney artwork, but I just did not like the graphic design and artwork from the Disney Robin Hood edition of the game. It just looks too kiddie, but I'm not impressed. I have no desire to go get it based upon what I've seen on the internet, okay? So you can go check it out at BGG, BoardGameGeek.com, but frankly, I have no interest in the Disney Robin Hood edition. When I heard about it, I was interested, but then I looked at the pictures that are on BGG. I'll pass, because this is much better. Now, as far as the second edition is concerned, that's put out by CMON, I can safely point people towards that edition because I think it is the one that is most readily available right now. I think you'll probably have to dig pretty hard or find a nugget in some lonely FLGS somewhere in order to find this one. I don't think this one's in print anymore. Well, it's not in print. It's not owned by Arcane Wonders any longer. But if you find a copy of this, I would definitely say you should get this one. If you can find this and Merry Men at the same time, boom, score! But if you can't, the second edition from CMON is basically just a reprint. I'm pretty sure that it comes with almost everything that this box and the Merry Men expansion comes with, but it has different artwork, and there might be some refinements or something like that in there. I know Tom did a comparison of the two way back when, so you can go check out that video. I'll even try to put a description, a link in the description below for that. But it's a good version to go with. It is not the original, which is my favorite as far as artwork and all of that kind of stuff is concerned, but it is basically the same game as far as everything that goes into it. I didn't like the artwork and graphic design of the second edition as well as this one, but it is what it is. It is basically just a, it still has the snapbacks on it that the original version had, which I think is a very important part mechanically for the fun of the game at least. But the second edition is good. So I'll definitely say go ahead and buy second edition if you see it. But if you see the first edition, jump on it. Now, every time I talk about it on a list or in some other kind of communal space where other people are able to weigh in, everybody says, you know, I tried this at my, some people, not everybody. Some people say, I tried this with my group and it just fell flat. And you know what? That's because, as I always say, not all games are for all people. But I have yet to not have a good time at this game. Even with 6 players and not knowing how having 2 deputies was going to work, even that was a fun experience for me. Now, what I usually tell people to do about this is the fact that you need to roleplay. You can't just go at this game mechanically. You need to kind of lean into the theme a little bit, use British accents, whatever you want to do, get into character, have fun with it, and that's where this game really, really sings. That's how it was intended to be played, I believe. I don't think that this was just a mechanical endeavor. I think there was a lot of theme that you really wanted to push into this game, and I think that's a safe thing to say. So that's my first pro. Thematically speaking, I love this game, and I love how it thematically works well with the mechanisms. And if you seek to kind of pull those two things apart, you're really doing the game a disservice. So you really have to just lean into the theme, and that's my first pro. I love how the theme and the mechanisms really work well together, because if you take one away from the other, it's really not that fun of a game, and I'll readily admit that. But right after I readily admit that, I'll also say, respectfully so, you're playing the game wrong. My second pro of the game is that I do enjoy set collection games, and this is really kind of a bare bones set collection game. Now, it has bluffing thrown into it, it has lying thrown into it, it has a lot of different elements thrown in there, but generally speaking, you're simply trying to collect different sets of goods to have the most of those, or the second most, at the end of the game, so you can score some bonus points. The other modular pieces of the expansion will add some other mechanisms to that mix, so to speak, but generally speaking, you're just trying to bluff your way into collecting a lot of goods that you're going to be selling at your booth in the marketplace at Nottingham. And I like that streamlined understanding of the game. I think it's something that people can latch onto very easily and very quickly. So that's why this is a pro for me. I love set collection games, and this really works well as one. My third pro for the game is To lie or not to lie? That is the question that you have to ask yourself on this game, because you can do well either way. You don't have to lie. Is it fun to lie sometimes? Yes. In this game, absolutely so, especially if you're leaning into the theme. Do you have to lie? Absolutely not, because you can not lie and hold your face straight, and people will still think you're lying, and you'll still get extra points for telling the truth. Go figure. I love that little razor's edge that this game balances upon, to lie or not to lie, because that's one of the first things that that I've run into, at least, when you tell people that it's a bluffing game. Well, I'm not a good liar. People can tell I'm lying from the get-go. Okay, so don't lie. Just tell the truth, and they'll think you're lying anyway, and then they'll have to pay you money. It's such a great dichotomy, and I love the fact that it's there. So lie, don't lie. Both are absolutely viable ways to win in this game, and that's why it's another pro. And my last pro for the game is going to be simply that it does not overstay its welcome. It goes very fast at a very quick pace. Now, you can have sheriffs that will maybe lean too heavily into the theme, and they take too long. That's easily fixable, because you just say, hey, speed it up. Hurry up, dude. You're taking too long. You can do stuff like that. It's not a big deal. Or just agree at the beginning of the game. I think the rule book says that it's a maximum 2 minutes for each player in each pouch. Don't go over that amount of time. You have to make your decision within that amount of time in order to keep the game moving on at a very easy pace. But I've also seen it where everybody is leaning a bit too heavily into the theme, and it takes longer than it was supposed to be, and nobody cares because they had such a great time playing the game and leaning into the theme and role-playing their parts. I really think that that's the way you should play the game. Forget about the time, but if time is of the essence, you do have that caveat in the rulebook where you can only spend a certain amount of time with each person as you're going through and determining who you're going to inspect and who you're going to let through. But it just doesn't overstay its welcome, in my opinion, at all, so it's a pro. I have no cons for this game. I don't think that anything in this game is con-worthy. So let's move along. So my rating for Sheriff of Nottingham, and again, I don't know that I've ever rated this game before, but I will say this. As far as party-esque type games are concerned, because that's kind of the category that I lump this one into, it's a bit heavier as a party game, but it still has that feel for me. For me, this is a stellar 9 out of 10. I really enjoy this game. Even though I didn't have any cons, I still shy away from giving 10s to games because 10 to me implies perfection. And there's enough people out there that have contacted me that have said this game falls flat for my group every single time I've tried it. I'm done with it. I'm not going to. Enough people have said that to me, so I'll knock it down to a 9. Because I understand that not all games are for all people. But for me, this game is very fun. I don't think it will ever leave my collection. It's a 9 out of 10 from me. Even after 10 years, it's still a 9 out of 10. Thank you for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.